Oh, I am so glad that you found your way back to the Yoga and Black podcast. But if you're new to the show, welcome. The show is all about sharing the stories of Black yoga and holistic wellness providers all around the world. And the goal is to bring more community awareness to the Black folks that not only practice yoga, but teach it too, to show our community that we too participate in these practices to help us heal and lead fuller lives. So, without me talking anymore, please, please, I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Yoga and Black podcast, folks. I'm Tierney, your host, as always, here, and I am so excited to have Ashtyn Nix here. We have been following each other for a while, and there was a moment where I'm like, I'm going to have a talk with Ashtyn. I know I am. I am going to have this conversation, and it's going to be awesome. But I didn't reach out to you at first or anything, and then I'm like, next thing I know, here they come, and I'm just like, thank you so much. I am so excited. I have been just in all of the things that you do and so excited to get to know you a little more. Yes. So I'm not going to talk anymore because I want this to be your moment to shine. Tell us some more about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashtyn. My pronouns are they, them. I am a yoga instructor, a spiritualist, an artist. I call myself a creatrix. So I feel like my matrix is in the space of creation. So whether that's music, that's art, that's dancing, teaching yoga, like anything where it's really bringing people together to express either emotions or come together in community. That's like something I'm just like super, super passionate about. So I call myself a creatrix and a community organizer because I love bringing people together. It's like, I feel like one of my superpowers is creating safe spaces for people. And I particularly focus on creating safe spaces for Black and Brown and Indigenous queer folks. So anyone that is under that space, there's like a lot of men's retreats for, straight men and women's goddess retreats for, straight women, but trying to create spaces that are co-ed, where we're coming together and sharing from the opposite sides and also creating a matrix together where it's like, we don't exist underneath that same umbrella. So it's not going to work for us in the same way that it works for others. So we have to create and make our own ways of, spaces to do these types of things. Right. So that's kind of like a little bit about me, I guess.
I love the term creatrix. I like that.
Thank you.
Because it's hard to really kind of find an identifier when you are the type of person that's just, I like to just make things. I like to create all of these different things and use these different mediums and modalities and all of this. And it's sometimes artist just doesn't cut it.
It doesn't feel right.
Sometimes calling yourself a creative doesn't really cut it either. Because it's like, well, what are you a creative in? I don't know.
I'm just creative.
Right. And it's just such a general term. Yeah. I'm like, I need something more that's just an identifying thing as me as a person, as a creative individual.
Exactly.
So I like that.
Yeah. You can use it.
Yes. Snatching, stealing, putting it, tucking it away. So that is amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. But I guess we could just start with the whole topic of this entire show, yoga. And I kind of, when I realized for a second, if we can just sidebar, the movie Brown Sugar, how she's like, when did you fall in love with hip hop? I'm like, have I become the yoga version of Brown Sugar? Because that's literally what I'm asking every time. It's like, when did you fall in love with yoga? So if you could tell me a little bit more about the beginnings of it all and how it just fell into place for you.
So I'm going to try to condense this because it's kind of like a lot.
Oh, trust. The stories are always kind of like here, there, everywhere. So just give it all to me.
Okay,
I'm always here for it.
So in I believe it was 5th grade. It's around the time that Oprah was doing those kids books. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if that's But I had this health teacher who was like obsessed with it. And one day
Yeah.
she brought in a yoga teacher to teach our class because it was like we were doing some type of, I can't really remember what it was. I just remember we were reading the little Oprah book and then she was like, we're going to do yoga. And then it was like, kids yoga. So we were like doing tree pose and, basic sun salutations and stuff like that. And those movements kind of just stuck with me because I've always been a mover. I've always done musical theater and dance. So I felt connected to it. I didn't really know why, but it was like just something I would do like here and there, like as a kid. And then out after high school, I went to performing arts high school. So sometimes we would do yoga, like at our dance classes and stuff before, like, but stretches, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't yoga. It was more deep
Yeah.
stretching. So I was always like very just into I always loved the feeling that I received after, having a really intense dance class or whatever and then taking, do deep stretches. So it kind of was just something I just started looking into, like deep stretches for tight, hamstrings or whatever. Um, and then I moved to Austin, as a lot of people from Dallas or the surrounding cities will say. It's like, then I moved to Austin and I became weird. No, I moved to Austin and I stayed at a co-op. And there was this one girl that I was just friends with in the co-op. I mean, it was like 150 of us, and it was like crazy, like hippie, clothing optional, like community garden. It was like this, like the ideal like experience for me in my youth. And I had this friend. She was always like, "Hey, I am learning how to teach yoga while I'm in college." It's like what she was doing to make money. So I would go to her classes, and then I got into Kundalini yoga just through a roommate of mine, and then I kind of went through that kind of phase where I was like, okay, I'm really into this. Like, oh my God. And like, I have a kind of sometimes with, as an artist and creator, like I get obsessed with, certain topics. And so then it's like, okay,
Oh yeah.
I'm so about
Want to
Kundalini,
know all the things about this? Yeah.
but I wasn't like ever into it for like fitness because I've always been naturally thin. I've always kind of been naturally fit. So I've never like had to see it that way.
Yeah.
Well, then I started like noticing like I was like kind of getting short of breath, like just because of allergies and stuff like that. And I was just like, I want to start feeling powerful in my body versus like, like super, super fluid. I want to feel some type of strength. And I don't know if you ever
Right.
saw the show The Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jillian Michaels has a yoga video called Intense Yoga Meltdown. If anybody wants to get their butt kicked, it's levels one. She has one CD and then another. They're two, like it's a complete set. And me and my friend at the time were like doing it, and it was like so intense, and it was just like. But there was something that she said that made vinyasa stick for me, which was get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Vinyasa flow yoga is all about linking movements together, focusing on your breath, focus all these things that are stress inducing, right? We do all of that for a purpose. We aggravate and we move the energy meridians in the body so that the last, hopefully 5 to 10, but sometimes 3 to 5 minutes of class, which is Shavasana, is people are able to really sit and be still
Yeah.
without twitching and all the movement and needing to be somewhere else. And I just remembered like doing that workout and like always being like, oh my God, like jello. So I went to the studio in Austin. It was donation based. So it was great for, like a young artist and whatever to be able to drop
Yeah.
in and take classes at Black Swan in Austin. And then flash forward, a series of events happened where my career before teaching yoga was I was a professional barista and bartender. So I went through a pretty hectic breakup. And at the time I'd been here in Dallas, we have a community of Hare Krishnas and they have a temple called Kalakanjis. And I had been going there just kind of like lightly and not really like it was just like my friends were going and it was cool and I was kind of like, okay, I'm vibing. But then I like really started going through something where my soul started being able to be open to what I was hearing and receiving. And
Mm-hmm.
Bhakti yoga like followed me like throughout this whole entire time. And after that breakup, I was like, well, I need something more. I need something physical because I'm so trapped in my body, and I wasn't dancing, and I don't really do theater anymore. So I wasn't getting those emotions out like I typically would when I was younger.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I believe that, people in masculine bodies, assigned masculine, male at birth bodies, um, should do something physical because, chemically testosterone makes us aggressive. And so we have to do
Mm-hmm.
things to release
Yeah, to exert
that
that. Yeah.
energy. And so vinyasa was it for me. Like I just started going hard and heavy. And then I found out that Black Swan was doing a scholarship program. And after the breakup with my ex, I ended up going through a house fire. It was like just like these series of unfortunate events, like a house fire, a moped accident, just crazy, crazy things. Um, and then I was like, I need to change. I don't want to bartend anymore. Like, I feel like there's just stagnant energy all around me. This was like the
Yeah.
fire was like a really transformational thing, which is where the moniker, the Phoenix Priestess, comes from, because it was like literally,
Okay.
I saw a flaming bird. Like me and my roommates all saw it, and the night before we were all yogis. Like me, the girls that I moved in with, all yogis, and so we'd been doing Reiki and stuff for each other, like
Yeah.
hippies. And they were singing this mantra, which is the Phoenix mantra, and one of the so the lyrics are: "We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire, brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher. We are rising up like a phoenix from a fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher. We are rising, we are rising, we are rising, we are rising. We are opening up in a sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One." You repeat that. We're, opening in the sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We're opening, we're opening, we're opening. And then it's just like, so that's, I love mantra meditation. So we were doing that mantra.
Yeah.
And they're like, every time you're around, we sing that mantra. And I was like, I don't know why. Like, you guys, like, literally just, you start off and then it's like a vibe. It's a thing. And so us seeing that, it was kind of like we had been traveling to music festivals together and doing all this stuff. And then I just happened to go to this breakup, moved in, and then it was just like all these, again, these series of events
Right.
that just led to me getting to this space where it was like, there's this scholarship that's here. And my friend at the time was applying for it, and I didn't want to compete with my friend. Like, I'd done enough competing. Like, I got out of theater
Yeah.
and, competitive dancing and stuff like that because I don't like that spirit. I don't like that
Mm-hmm.
energy. And then something happened, like at my barista job, where I ended up walking out. I was like fed up. And then I was sitting in my room and I was scrolling on Instagram, and then it was like Black Swan pops up, and it's like last day for entries for the scholarship. And I literally like sat up while I was in my pajamas, just recorded like a really like raw video, like, and sent it in, and like went to bed and like didn't even think about it. And I was like, it is in your hand, Krishna. Like, whatever you need,
Right.
whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. I woke up to like so many messages on Instagram the next day because they announced that I won like way before I woke up. So I
Oh
won.
gosh. What a surprise. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I mean, I had known about the scholarship for a whole month. So I had so much time to apply, and I just was like, I don't want to compete with my friend, da 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 da. And then Spirit and my mom was like,
Moms be
she
knowing.
was like, do you want this? Is this what you want? Do you feel called to do this? And I was like, I really do. Like Black Swan was where I, started my vinyasa practice
Right.
in studio. Um,
Yeah.
and so it just aligned. And I got to take the 30-day teacher training, and that was when I knew that I was on the right path, at being in the world of yoga, right? Because there's vinyasa, there's bhakti, there's kundalini, there's tantra, there's so many different forms
So
of yoga,
many.
because it's a moving, living, breathing practice, right? And so it's like for me with an obsessive brain, I can like obsess on like this thing for like so long and still not know something and still want to learn more and still
Oh
crave
yeah.
more information. And it just, so many different other little things brought me to these conclusions of just like, when I graduated, my friends were like, Ashtyn, it makes sense for you to be a yoga teacher. Like, I don't know why it took you so long to do this. And I'm like, I don't know. It just happened. I never thought that I would be like, yeah, let's go get hot and sweaty in a yoga room. Like, young me was like, I don't sweat. I glisten. So,
Yeah, that is an amazing story. And I always ask this question first and foremost, is because I really do want us all to share these experiences and stories that we have. And also just my own curiosity to see the common threads that we have when it comes to when yoga enters our life and the point where we switch from just loving the practice or finally loving the practice
mm-hmm,
and then deciding that we want to share it too.
mm-hmm.
Um, so thank you for giving us that very, very,
Crazy
very detailed
roadmap.
story. Because man, like, but it happens like that
Yeah.
because so many things happen in life that will challenge you, try to break you, all of these things. And those of us that have found the practice have found something to truly help us through those tough times.
Mm-hmm,
And that's constant. It's
mm-hmm,
always constant. So having something like yoga in our lives is truly a gift because it allows us to still be able to live full, content lives without being so, you know, what am I trying to say here? So brought down
mm-hmm,
by
mm-hmm,
circumstance because
mm-hmm,
circumstance is always going to be there.
mm-hmm.
Like,
Get
it's just
comfortable with being
inevitable.
uncomfortable.
Exactly. Exactly. And I've said something very similar even in some of my classes because I love vinyasa, but I was trained mostly in Ashtanga and Hatha.
Okay.
So my preference is more holding postures for a little
Yeah.
bit longer. So that's where my mindset is on the, finding comfort in the discomfort
Mm-hmm,
or feeling the discomfort so that you can enjoy
mm-hmm.
when you're,
When you're
finally finding
moving
that
and
space
yeah.
to, yeah, find the comfort. It's like in the posture, it's like, okay, yeah, this might suck right now, but where can you breathe?
Where
What
can you
things can you do to
soften?
shift in your body exactly to find where you can hold this discomfort but still be able to exist in it without
Being
feeling
present.
stress, tension,
Being the
all of that.
stone in the river.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then by the time you get to that shavasana, you're just like, let it all go,
You know?
let it all go, relax it all
Leave it
out.
on the mat, baby.
Thank you. Congratulate yourself for being able to do these things without it breaking you down.
Yeah.
And then feeling that support of the floor beneath you, just letting it all go. Like the exact definition of grounding. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thank you for bringing that up
You're
because,
so welcome.
wait. You mentioned Bhakti Yoga, and no one on this show has talked about Bhakti Yoga
Oh
yet.
my
And I would
God.
love for you to give us a quick breakdown of what it is, what the experience is like, and
Yeah.
what folks can expect of it.
So I am a bhakti yogi, like at heart. I feel like music is one of my first loves. I was like a growing up praise and worship kid, So I feel like when I found bhakti, that was what truly rooted me into yoga in all of its forms, because then it was like, okay,
Mhm.
so the asana is only like 20%. The bhakti is literally the nectar. You could literally only do bhakti, but in this age we need asana along with bhakti, along with kundalini. That's why so many schools of yoga are
Yes.
like popping up and mixing, because the world needs this information. So Bhakti
Mm.
Yoga is essentially I don't want to speak for them because I don't consider my, like, by the devotees, I'm considered a devotee, but I don't consider myself like a true devotee because I haven't gone through initiation, and like I don't
Right.
like really attend in the way that some individuals do. But I had a friend. Her name is Raven. I don't have. She is still my friend. We are still friends. Okay, girl.
Hi,
If you want to
Raven.
talk about bhakti, that is your girl. I've seen how bhakti yoga transformed her life and the things that she's able to do now. And so the core tenets of bhakti is, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the story of Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of the last spiritual war. Like, so when they say last spiritual war, they're talking like anime style, where people are
Laser.
and making,
Like,
making like weapons appear out of thin air. Like this was like the
yes.
last time that was going on. And it's a conversation about this man's struggle to have to slay his family members, his kin, his loved ones on a battlefield, but they're on the wrong side of
Yeah.
history, And the Bhagavad Gita is considered, it's a part of the Vedas. The Vedas are eternal knowledge, eternal information. So that means that that moment in time is forever happening. It's always happening in that way. It's its own pocket universe, right?
Yeah.
So the Bhagavad Gita, and then also sometimes, they go into the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the cantos of how the universe is formed and how the gods and different personalities of the universe exist within Hindu philosophy. And so there's that. There's a lot more philosophy that you go through, because we were going to a youth group, like a young adults, group. So we would
Yeah.
talk about different scriptures in the Bhagavad Gita, different, cantos in the Srimad Bhagavatam or whatever. And it would be themed like very much like a church service, but more like yoga style. Because then we would like chant the Maha Mantra, which is the supreme mantra. It liberates all beings just by hearing it once. The more you chant it, the more karma you release, the more you purify your soul to be able to get back to Krishna. Because the idea is we created separation from ourselves and the supreme divinity. That's why we go through what we go through on this realm of Maya or illusion, right? So the only way Krishna doesn't exist here. He comes here, and Krishna is in all of us. He's the Paranatma. He's the supreme soul.
Right.
And you can sit, and I don't, when I say he, I don't mean like in the ideology way of like, like this is the supreme God,
Yeah.
right? But like, if that's how you want to take it, that's how you can take it, right? Krishna says, I can be your lover, I can be your friend, I can be whatever you need me to be. I will show up to
Right.
you how you need me in this life, right? So the Maha Mantra, when you chant it, it brings the essence, the spirit of the Krishna consciousness, the supreme soul energy. And I was a skeptic at first. I'm not gonna lie. So I was like, they're putting something in the food. It's Y'all, it's groupthink, like I've been in plays before where we got a little bit
Yeah.
too confused about who we were, its characters and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know. But then like there were these moments when things were like just down and just awful, and I would find myself reciting this mantra after hearing it, and then feeling like so at peace, just being like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and just like repeating it, right? Because it's a form of meditation that takes yourself out of yourself, because those words are eternal and holy. Those words are
Yeah.
vibratorily. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going with it. It's
Hey, that's okay. Webster always takes new additions.
you know what I'm saying. But on a vibration scale, it exists, and when you hear it, it literally creates a vibration that you can't not smile. You can't not, because so many people
Yeah.
have been chanting this mantra. So many people have been imbuing this mantra with energy, and that
Right.
energy is to reach the supreme source, to open up, to be opening, right? It always comes back to that opening, that surrendering to the universe, because we are not the controller. We are the Atma,
Right.
but we're not the Paranatma, which is we are the soul, not the supreme soul. We're all just pieces. So there's Krishna in you, like, like there used to be the Jesus. And I found so many parallels between,
Oh,
Christianity and Krishna
so many.
consciousness, because I was like, well, just
So
there,
many.
Christ, Krishna, that's literally the same. Just the teachings of Krishna, how Krishna behaved was very similar to how they, say Christ behaved. So it's
Exactly.
it's clear that there's something there.
There's a root connection to it all. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
And again, like I'm not like an expert by any means. I just know for me that chanting the Maha Mantra and being in association with devotees, like after the house fire, it was devotees from the Hare Krishna temple that found me a home to stay in. So I feel like it was Krishna that I was literally right down the street from the temple. So I would
Yeah.
go to the temple and I would cry and I would pray, you know, like pour my little alabaster box down, and literally that's when I got the scholarship, was staying in that society, being around those people, being in a vibration that takes you out of your struggle, out of your misery, and just allowing the universe to move.
Mm.
And that's literally what bhakti is. It's bringing sound, vibration, and mantra together. And so instead of it just being like, there's sounds and there's actual keys and there's actually, you
Yeah.
know, how they say each chakra has its own sound, its own note on the
Right.
scale. It's very similar with bhakti yoga. It's the yoga of devotion, the yoga of worship, the yoga of service. And yeah, clearly I drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh, look. You're not alone, and I'm upset with myself for not having involved myself more in it because I've had, introductory experience years ago, like around the time of my 200 hour.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was brought back to me again when I first moved to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
One of the instructors that I took classes from and eventually started teaching at his studio, he loved a good kirtan. And
Mm-hmm.
he
Ooh, I
always
love a
would
good kid.
have
I love me a good kirtan. Give me a little harmonium and a madanga, girl.
Yes, and he would imbue that into his classes, so we would be chanting,
Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah.
class, and it was doing things for me in that time that I truly needed,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd stopped um practicing it because I had moved, so I wasn't able to get to
Mm-hmm.
the classes as easily anymore. Not to mention the studio space did close too. um but I never really looked for anything again similar to that. And then I did my 300 hour last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Time
Jeez.
flies.
I know, because I'm like, just finished around Christmas, New Year's of this year. Wow. Can't believe it's been already. Anyway, beside the point.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm working on my
But
500 right now, and I'm like, oh, it's a lot of
oh,
information.
it is but it's so
It's so
good.
good. It's
Oh,
that
it's
type
so
of like
good.
nectar where you're like, ooh, it's so
Yeah.
sweet. I can only have a little bit at a time because I know that it's gonna give me like not a stomach ache, but my eyes are bigger than my stomach.
Yes, because I'm sitting here like reading all of the things and watching all the videos because it was all virtual,
Mm-hmm.
but we would have weekly sessions with the main instructor and our cohorts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was just so much to take in, and not to mention she brought in guests, and one of them was a bhakti yogi who gave us so many different chants and the experience. And I'm just like, oh, it just brought back the memory of being in those classes and just having those moments where the chants would just transmute
Transcend, yeah.
something in me, and I'm just like, I missed that
That
and I
sound
needed it
vibration on a
so bad.
cellular level coming from
Yes.
you. You're intoning that vibration. and it's
Yes.
moving through your chakras, through the meridians, through the body to come out and go to the universe. You're using your prana to make it
Exactly.
happen. So it's like it's a very beautiful experience for anyone listening who's not experienced bhakti yoga. I suggest experiencing bhakti yoga because
Oh yeah.
it's such a beautiful experience.
Yes, and it's a big reason why, because for a long time I struggled trying to find a way to incorporate it into my classes
Mm.
because of how, I'm just gonna say it, a lot of folks will turn their nose up to it because it's so, different
Mm-hmm.
and foreign to them. And I'm like, and I get that. That is completely valid. However, you can sit and observe and just see how it feels just as, an observer and a spectator, and just seeing how you feel about it. You don't have to do any of it. And I keep it real simple. Keep it just to an Om Shanti, like just a few chants of Om, a few Shantis, and that's it. Like I'm not gonna make you do anything else because I know that speaking a foreign language is a little discomforting for folks when you don't know truly what you're saying. And I'm
But
doing my
that's like
best to educate you on this stuff.
that makes me
But
so upset. Like I am
I
like
know.
very. This is where I'm very passionate in the yoga complex, right? The yoga
Yeah.
consumer complex. This is not a, I'm just going to say it, a white, Western, Eurocentric belief system, right?
Bingo.
This is for black and brown. I personally feel it is for liberation of all black and brown individuals.
Thank you.
Not saying that they're excluded from the liberation. You can get some liberation, but you got to get
Right.
it. But you actually have
But
to
you
get
have
it.
also to understand that for a large, large portion of history, there's a certain sector of people that have been the oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
And these practices come from those that have been oppressed. And for you to, first of all, take it away and then try to take it from and
Mm-hmm.
then rebrand it as something
And
else.
water it down.
Yeah.
It's
And then
given.
to scoff when it's like the folks that, it's it's for or from, bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
That's insulting almost, at least to me. I'll
It really
speak for
is.
myself.
It's
It's
honestly very
insulting because
insulting. And it bothers me that like people feel like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable, but it's like this is literally a whole thing.
it's been for us this entire time. We just have been so displaced from it because of someone else. Like
Yeah. And
it's always been ours.
I always keep telling people like I'm trying to bring Sanskrit back into the studio because
Yes.
that's where it belongs. It's this, you cannot take this practice and water it down because then people aren't really getting what it's truly supposed to be. If you don't say
Mhm.
prasarita, that's literally a vibration. It's
Thank
supposed
you.
to create a vibration. So you don't say, you just say wide leg forward fold, but you don't even try, or it's
Yes.
just, or it's just, I don't know, it's just something, especially
It's
being in that
frustrating.
community. As so you've been to Kalakunji, so like being around those, there are actual people from India, people who are actually generationally a part of this culture that are here, and it's just,
Mhm.
I don't know, it just feels very blatantly disrespectful to be like, oh, I'm not going to use Sanskrit, I'm not going to chant. It's just like
Look,
that's not the practice then. Then it's just group fitness. And I always tell my students at the beginning of the class,
thank you.
I'm not a group fitness instructor. Vinyasa
That's
will make you
amazing.
sweat. I don't care about your Fitbit, child. I didn't get into
Thank
yoga about no Fitbit,
you.
okay?
Oh my God. That
It,
is, I'm
you
so
upset it
glad
wasn't intense
we
enough?
are kindred
You want to do
here.
15,000 push-ups and chaturanga, baby? Do it. I'm not cueing it.
I'm not that person. And I always have given that disclaimer. And even though right now, like in this moment, I am teaching a fitness based class,
Mm-hmm.
I will fully admit I am not a personal trainer. I'm not, I mean, I started what is the training? NHS? IHS. I don't even know what the acronym is.
Mm-mm.
That's how bad it is. I'm really not. That's not for me. I like fitness as just a consumer, but
Exactly. Yes.
that's not my thing. But I do appreciate the class. However, I'm always like, I am a yoga teacher. And when you come to my yoga classes, I'm going to let you know right now, I am not providing you a workout. You will sweat because that's inevitable. That's inevitable for bodies that have been, living in a society where we are fairly sedentary. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sedentary.
We're seated. Yeah, we're seated a lot. We're rested at home. We aren't the most active folks right now. Like, we're getting it back, but gone are the days of having to work physically to make your livelihood. So knowing that you're now in this space where you are intentionally breathing and consciously moving your body, that takes work, and that causes your body to have that physical reaction. So of course you're gonna sweat, but I can guarantee you, if you are coming here for weight loss, if you are coming here for any fitness goals, you're not going to get those things from me, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But this is just not, I'm not providing that in this space. So I always try to give that
Exactly.
disclaimer. And like you mentioned, bringing the Sanskrit back into the space is so important, because especially if you are teaching yoga from the Indian lineage, like if you're going to teach the yoga from the Indian lineage, you should be using the terminology, the philosophy, all of that.
If you are a group fitness
And yoga,
instructor, then be a group fitness instructor with some yoga asanas thrown in. But
right.
yoga is not fitness oriented. It's not.
Yes.
It wasn't until power yoga was invented, right, that it
Mm-hmm.
became fitness oriented. It was always supposed to be to tire the body, to be able
Yeah.
rigorous movement, yes. And like you said, with rigorous movement, intentional breathing, all these active cues, movements, you're going to sweat. And naturally, there will be some type of natural weight loss, but then there will be a space where you plateau, because this is, in a sense, body
Yeah.
weight training. So you're only using what you've got. So it's going to tone, you're going to look
Exactly.
good, whatever, but like an outcome, because you're going to look good on the inside too. Because
Exactly. It's
that's
a
what we,
well-rounding kind of a thing, all encompassing.
but I don't
Yes.
know reps. I don't know curl. I don't know none of that. I'm sorry,
No.
friends. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I just got a membership to Planet Fitness, so I guess I'll learn. But right now, I don't know nothing about that. Couldn't tell you.
uh, we are on very similar pages, man, because I just
The most
I
you get from me
can't.
is need an elbow, like or a star
Yes.
goddess.
Or just like, yeah, I love, if anything, repetitions of movements from like a half lift
Hmm, hmm.
arha to, a full urdhva. But yeah, anything else, I'm just like, no. I can't do it. It's hard for me to think in those terms, because I don't practice that way, so I don't
Right.
teach that way either. Um, yeah, because I was teaching at a place that was one of those, if you cannot use Sanskrit, no chanting allowed, and I'm like,
So what are we
I don't
doing,
like
friend?
this. Thank you. And I was trying like my best to find ways. I'm like, how can I get these things involved? Because I don't want to get in trouble and lose my job, because at that time that was my livelihood. But I had to question so much in my time there, because I'm like, what am I really doing here? If
Hmm,
this is going so against, what I feel is right in
hmm.
terms of the way that I share yoga, because it's not feeling good for me as a
I
practitioner,
mean,
or
we could just be
a
honest.
teacher.
It's
So
being
I'm like, yeah.
colonized. Like yoga has been
Yeah.
colonized. It's been Americanized, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, now it's a enterprise. It's no
It's a
longer.
commodity
It's a
now. Yeah.
commodity. Like there's such an oversaturation. Like there's so many yoga teachers, but there's not a lot of yoga teachers that teach safely or actually know anything about
Woo.
the practice, that anything about the body. They like I know someone who's a teacher in a specific school, and I was like, oh, like I was talking to them about Bhakti or I don't know, like Kundalini, something, and they were like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know anything outside of this, and I was like, you weren't curious about any other, because I know at the end of your 200 hour they're
Yes.
like, well, these are the other types of yoga
Yes.
that you could experience, like, so you didn't, that was it was one and done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I love that for you or whatever. Like it's just so strange to me that there's so much, again, there's so much nectar, there's so much here, there's so much beauty and culture, and like for me I find a lot of similarities in and how cultures evolve over time, how cultures
Yeah.
take stories and separate, whether it's through marriage or trade or slavery or whatever it is, and how those things in the hands of, those who write history, in the hands that of those who run our world, and
Mm-hmm.
the select few of us that are even able to share that, right? Because as we all know, there's not that many Black yoga instructors.
No.
You
That's
know,
exactly why this exists, because I have some type
I've
of
shown up in spaces where I'm
plan.
just like,
To
okay,
just be damned.
was I the diversity hire because,
Yes. Oh my God.
oh, I'm palatable because my name is Ashtyn. Like it's like one of the,
Ooh,
so
the
just,
oh,
I'm
the
very
side
passionate
eye that
about
gets thrown
this.
in those moments. Oh, because I'm
Yeah.
like, where's the rest of us? And not even just like us as like Black folks, but I mean
People of
any
color, yeah, like
diversity.
people of
Yes.
color. Like I'm
Yes.
grateful that the spaces that I'm in now, because I have made it my mission to be in those
Yes.
spaces, work with those spaces, create those spaces. I'm now surrounded by
Same.
that, so I see it more, and I
Same.
see how it is, entering into Black and brown homes. I do see how more people are introducing it to their maybe super conservative, super religious family members. Like it's happening.
Yes.
However,
Not even that. They're
they're
kids.
kids, like I taught
Yes.
summer camp yoga this past summer for these young children, and it was amazing to see kids who really genuinely, you could tell how to yoga practice with their parents, or you could tell
Yeah.
how to meditation type of practice, and it was just like, it reminded me of being in fifth grade and being introduced to yoga, like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like kind of like a full circle moment. Like I'm this person for them that was that person for me. So one of these people,
They're gonna be that same
you
thing.
know,
That circle's just gonna keep going, and actually, it turns into more of a spiral, I
right?
guess,
It
at
just
that
kind of
point.
goes
Yeah,
up at that point.
yeah.
So it's just really
Uh,
cool to, to see us showing up. But it's also, you can also say that because of mental health and discussions of mental health in Black
mm,
and brown communities is not typically there, right? It's
yeah,
only been until recently, in the last, I want to say, 7 to 8 years, that
hmm,
psychology and therapy has really found its foothold in Black and brown communities. So I give us grace, like,
yeah.
especially people who don't, Black and brown individuals who don't have yoga studio etiquette. I'm like, I give you grace. Love y'all.
Well, and it's the thing is, like, that could be like yoga studio etiquette in more westernized terms is a very white supremacy based thing.
Exactly. That's why I'm like,
Yeah,
I give it grace, because I'm like, I'm not gonna be as hard on you. I hate to say it like this, but I'm not going to be as hard on someone that I know is their first day of yoga or their first time, and they're a
right.
Black or brown person. They're probably a little intimidated. They're probably a little
Yeah,
like terrified, and they walk into the studio with their shoes on. Okay, like, scared, because in Indian culture, the reason why you take off your shoes when you enter a space is because of germs, right? But they don't know
yeah,
this. They don't know
right.
why we do what we do, or if that's even a thing. So how can I, you know, I feel like it's people who I know have the privilege to do something.
Hmm.
I'm a little harder on. I've noticed, because
Yeah.
that's like even from like a dance background, right? Like a theater background. Like, this person is the lead of the show. There's going to be a lot more pressure on the lead, this person who has had privilege. You've seen them in different shows, da 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 da.
Yeah.
than some random up and coming taking the stage tonight, babe. You know, they're not the
Yeah.
same. They're
Right.
not the same. They don't get paid the same. They don't do the same thing. So they can't be treated the same. You can't handle them the same. Just like in dance, you don't handle a prima ballerina like a ballerina one. You know,
Right.
it's not. You just have different
Yeah.
and it's that's a part of having standards. That is what yoga teaches, and I don't think of it in the European concept. It's more of like just knowing how to be in a studio,
Hmm.
right? Like how to just
Yeah.
etiquette. Like, okay, it's cool. You don't have to like. You can talk. You can be like. I try to make
Right.
jokes because I'm like this.
Please talk. Please say something to me
I'm tired of talking at
anytime.
y'all.
Like, right. Like, you do not have to be silent in here. This is not a library.
Please laugh. When I have people
Like,
do like Wild
thank
Thing or like any
you.
like backbend, I'm like, if you're not smiling in a heart opener, then you should probably come out of it, please.
Oh my God.
Like you'll see like the room. They're like, I'm like, no, smile. I'm being serious. Smile, and then
Yes.
their energy changes when they smile. It's like whole thing.
If your body makes noise, guess what? Mine did too. It's okay. We are fine. Like, the things are moving around. The things are going to snap, crackle, pop, or fart. It's
I have a very
okay.
funny story about that. So I was helping someone in Down Dog as an assist, and it was like, I'm like behind them, like pulling up at their hips,
Hmm.
and it was the gentlest, most yogic fart I've heard. Just being like, it's like, and, and,
It's just a little poop.
and he just like goes like this and falls down because he just was so
Oh no.
embarrassed. And I was like,
Oh,
it's
poor thing.
totally. I had
Poor thing. I'm like, trust, I have experienced it all. It's
it's
okay. It
fine.
is
I've walked into
okay.
worse.
Have you ever walked into the cloud of it
Yes,
after
girl.
it's
Yes.
occurred and you're just like, oh, okay.
Oh
You
my
are, I
god.
am glad to know that this is regulating your system in the way that it needed to, because you
Because things are
needed
shifted, lifted,
it.
and that smell was higher than the ceiling.
But no, embrace all of that. Like, you're having a very human experience with a bunch of other humans. We are going to be doing these things. It's okay.
It's
And
okay.
even if you want to giggle about it, let's giggle about it, because more than likely your partner silently did it because they done figured out a way to do it
Look,
quietly.
the
But
silent but deadly.
anytime, exactly, anytime my body makes a sound, because it's
You
mine is
pop.
always the Rice Krispies.
Yeah.
Yep, I got Rice Krispie joints,
Hmm.
and I will demo something, and you'll hear all of that music, and I'm like, yep, and just like that, you might hear that too. So go ahead and embrace it. It's part of this playlist. Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or when the music stops and you're like, silence is our playlist. Our
Hmm.
breath is our
Yes.
music.
Look, man, whenever a technical difficulty happens, I love doing that. Just like, let the music of your body or breath be, the playlist of the class now, cuz I love using music in class mostly as an auditory cue
Hmm.
for me
Hmm.
to understand
Where
my
you
timing.
are, yeah.
Yeah. But I also appreciate a silent space too,
Hmm.
where the breath can really be part of the fabric of the class, because so often people can't even hear themselves
Hmm.
breathing.
Hmm.
So I'm like, let's I keep my music fairly low
Hmm. Hmm.
so they can't hear that. But also so they can hear all the other things too, because this is a sensory experience. And I want you
Hmm.
to be able to not only just, hear the music that may be playing, but to hear what's going on within you,
Hmm.
and also connecting to the things that are going on in the people with the people around you. Because that's the whole reason. Well, I'm not going to assume, but the main reason a lot of folks come to
Because they don't want to be
a
alone.
class is, yeah, they don't want to be alone. So like, you're in community with other people, so experience this with them in its fullest.
Yeah, I've been doing
Ooh,
the last 5 minutes of like Shavasana
yeah.
in silence and ending the
Mm,
class just in silence, even if it spills over a little bit, like the time spills over. It's just like, you're more than welcome to stay here and breathe if
yeah.
you'd like to. If you're ready to move on with your day, this is what you can do to signal that to me. Um, I don't say namaste at the end of my classes anymore because,
Me neither. I end it with I'll do my om and my om shantis, and then I'll end. Sometimes I'll do the loka sama stuff baban too, but usually it's just ending with a final breath and a final bow, and that's it.
I'll say the light in me honors and recognizes the light in you, and then I keep it pushing.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I also keep my class really dim so that when they step
Hmm.
out, because the whole entire class, I'm like, we're reaching for light. I'm a Reiki master. So just naturally, like, I'm like pushing out that, energy of healing. And
Right.
I, so I'm always just like, reach for the light, let the light search for any discomfort. Let it, as you're breathing, imagine a golden light traveling through your body, searching discomfort, ease into it. And then, at the end, when they're walking out of that dark space into the lobby, I'm like, welcome to the light. Because I'm like, welcome to the light. And they laugh. It's like super cheesy, but it's like my thing of just like, like you've been reborn. This is, you go in here, we're practicing in a dim room because like you're unsure, whatever it is that brought you here. Most times that the things that bring people to yoga is some type of need for emotional, mental, and spiritual clarity. So it's
Yes.
kind of, this is where a lot of like my background in like theater and the arts is kind of becomes like a almost not a performance in the sense of I'm playing a character, but a performance in the sense of
Yeah.
I'm creating a
You're creating
specific
an environment
container.
yeah. And that's what most of our job is.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
creating a safe space, which
Hmm.
is literally, all I've ever wanted to do. And I'm like, yes, I'm doing it.
You mentioned something about when we were speaking on silence during the Shavasana. I'm wondering what your experience is with moments where people might feel uncomfortable with the silence in those moments. How do you facilitate that for them?
So for me, the silence is with no song, no
Hmm.
poppy, catchy, lo-fi beat, no beats, just silence. And
Yeah.
during that process, I give them certain things like if unclench the jaw, release the tension from the forehead, let the tongue drop from the roof of the mouth. Focus on the inhale and exhale. How can you soften? How can you
Mm.
deepen into this moment? How can you stay present? Do you want to escape? Are you attaching to a story? Are you
Mm.
attaching to a feeling? Don't attach to the story. The feeling doesn't matter. Just be. Just try your hardest just to be, because that is the yoga of Shavasana. It's corpse
Yeah.
pose. So imagine, so sometimes for, like, I get very visual with some people. Like, if I have like a one on one or something and they're like having issues, I'm like, okay, so literally, we don't like to say this in the yoga world because it's like, it is, that's one of the one Sanskrit things that you're going to hear in the yoga studio, right? Shavasana. Because it translates to corpse pose, meaning
Right.
dead. It's the end of the practice. It's supposed to signify a ritual death. So I was explaining this to one of my friends before. I was like, what we're doing in asana is a ritual movement practice. We are using our bodies to direct energy flow, just like in Tai Chi, right? When they're doing the
Mm.
movement, they're creating, the energies. That's exactly what we're doing when we're
Yeah.
inhale, extend, exhale, open up. What's happening? You're literally opening the heart. You're forcing the chest to open. You're
Hmm.
opening the heart. So you're activating that chakra. When you're you know what I mean? Like when you're rounding out, you're closing, opening up. It's, and obviously our students don't think like that. And not every yoga teacher thinks like that as well. Some
Yeah.
don't even, when I talk about energy to some teachers, they're like, okay, well, Mark and Gatorade too.
Oh
This
God.
is literally in the text. This is literally in the training. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, the silence is really, I kind of do, sometimes I'll do a guided meditation, like maybe like a 2 minute, and then leave them there, because that guided meditation typically sends them into a space of safety,
Yeah.
right? I
Hmm.
don't, I believe that being trauma informed in some of my training allows me to kind of, and also having my own experiences with anxiety and different things, it allows me to be like, okay, no, like people, like when I'm like inhale, hold the breath, I only ever not count down the last time, because that is the space where they are, you already know you're gonna release the breath. You don't, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to
Right.
worry about how long you're holding it. But the first couple of times I'm like inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold the breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale, let it go. And then the last time, inhale, hold the breath. Feel the expansion, feel the universe inside of you, feel the prana energy moving through you. Exhale, release the breath. Because at that point, they already know where we're
Mm-hmm.
going, right?
Yeah.
So just creating these little, I have specific things that I say all the time in my classes. Like, we're here for 5 more breaths, 7 more breaths, whatever the number is.
Right.
This many chances, this many opportunities to deepen, to soften, to expand. If you want to take something different, you're more than welcome. If you want to add movement, listen to your body. Don't deny the body. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are things that I'm telling people so that they're already kind of in a space where they're trusting themselves. And I
Yeah.
also tell people at the end, if because Shavasana is not comfortable for some people,
Right.
right? Ideally, you want to have a 7 to 12 minute Shavasana.
Thank you.
It should honestly be 15 minutes.
Yes.
But
Wholeheartedly agree.
most classes are only an hour. You know, maybe with like some sound bowls or something. Like, because Shavasana can look different for different people. But for
Yeah.
me, the silence recently has been important, especially, you know, in a world where we're seeing people's voices silence, people's stories silence,
Mm.
you know, like silence. What's going on up here? What's noise?
Yes.
Keep focusing on your breath. Just listen. You don't have to attach to what's going on up here, because it's either always gonna be there, or it's gonna move and it's gonna release itself, right?
Mm. Yep.
Be still. And which teaches you in your normal life, when you're stressed, breathe. Be
Mm.
still. Respond. Don't react. Right?
Mm. Yes. I
Stillness is like
love that saying of respond, don't react, because,
that's like my life motto, because I used to.
oh, reactions are very spontaneous, not well thought out. They're
They're-
literally emotional, like raw ass emotion, and response is a little bit more conscious.
It's taking it in.
Yes.
Processing. How does it make me feel? Where am I going to go with this? What do I need to say? So you're not in the moment. Because like I said, I used to pop.
Look.
I used to have an emotional. I'm an emotional being. And
Same,
now I'm still
same.
emotional, but on a 5, not a 10.
Yes. And it's so weird because like for me, I'm very much an emotional person too, but it was more internal. So like if things were happening, I was having an internal reaction rather than an internal response that made the most sense. And now I'm able to activate so much more of my consciousness and understanding, okay, like identifying the feeling. Yes, that
Mm-hmm.
is there, that
Mm-hmm.
exists. But how is it going to be able to paint the rest of this picture if you were to do X or if you were to do Y? Like
Mm-hmm.
taking that time to really just process, so beneficial, even if I'm not like just spouting off at the mouth just as a reaction. Even still, some of that reaction was internal where I'm like, I may not say the words, but I'm thinking the things now. And now I've completely changed, how I either feel about you or the situation or any of that, all because of my internal reaction. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, was that necessary? No. Like,
I'm
have
working on.
your time to be mindful of it all and then proceed rather
Mm-hmm.
than knee jerk, what the fuck? It
Exactly.
saved me a lot of internal drama.
Feel so much more like people recently, like over the last couple of years since I've been teaching, people are like, "Oh my god, like you seem so calm." It's like it's because I'm literally right now processing everything I'm saying before I say it. Like I'm
Mm,
not just. I know I want to speak with intention, no longer for
yes.
attention. Like there's a
Ooh.
between having something to say that's important and imparting knowledge and wisdom or joy or whatever into people, and then just talking just to talk. And because I was in Bhakti, I play cello and I do music and stuff like that. Like, I'm very sensitive to sound vibrations. I literally told
Mm-hmm.
someone once, I was like, I'm sorry, but there's something about your voice that vibrate. Like, I don't like the vibration. I don't.
Oh,
I
we
don't.
have
I
that in
don't like it.
common too.
It makes me feel like I should do this, and I don't like that feeling. The moment I feel like that,
Yes.
it's like I don't feel safe. So I've learned to navigate that by just being like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what's going on. This is what I feel. Like, don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't think about when this happened, the last time, the time before that, because this is right now. This is what's
Yes.
happening right in front of you. So it has taught me to be present so
Mm.
that I'm not acting off of past emotion, because that's all emotion is. It's energy in motion, and it's typically attached to a past memory,
Yep.
right? And every time you think about that memory, we've learned this in psychology. Every time you think about a memory, you're distorting the memory.
Yeah.
It's like taking a picture and then taking a picture of the picture and then taking a picture of the picture of the picture. Like, eventually, that original image, you can't blow it up at
Yeah.
its original resolution, right? So that's literally the same.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, is like tapping into old versions of myself, right? That I still haven't allowed to die,
Mm-hmm.
and creating those boundaries with myself so that I'm not harming others, because that's harmful to people when
Yeah.
you're like reactory, when you're just like, oh, I feel like this, and I saw something on Facebook that someone posted, and it was like, people are having a bad day and they don't mean to treat you wrong, and da da da. And I was like, I get where this post is coming from, and I love to throw an and in there,
Because it's both and.
right? And we're adults. We are fully functioning, formed adults. And
Mm-hmm.
while, yes, we may not all have the same empathy levels and mental capacities and blah, 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 we know right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we know when we are doing something that is harming someone.
Mm.
People, you, there is no subconsciously harming people.
No.
Because at some point, someone said something to you about an action or a way you respond to something or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
indicated that that could potentially be harmful. And
Yeah.
if you continue to enact those same energetic patterns, then it's a choice to be within that pattern. So I don't receive that. I'm like, no, we hold people accountable over here because I want to be
Yeah.
held.
Exactly. I love that you mentioned that that both can be possible. Like, yeah, the bad day can happen. You can feel the type of way about it. However, you are also a fully functioning, well, I won't say that, but you are a
Right.
full grown adult.
No, no,
Like,
no. That's what I
you
was like,
are a
I don't
full grown adult, and we are working on our emotional intelligence, our our ability to be mindful and
know. Opportunity.
empathetic and all of these things. And it's not to negate your feelings or your, anything you've got going on and experiencing. However, how does your behavior also affect the entire whole? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not all just about you. You
It's
are
not.
you are one person involved in an entire thing. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's been an hour already. All right. So, Ashton, before we wrap this up, because I'm very not happy about having to, but I want to make sure that I get the opportunity to ask you the traditional question that everyone gets asked here, and that's for you to impart any other advice that you have. So we're targeting more towards any advice you would give to people that are looking to start the practice for the first time, and then folks that have been practicing for a while and interested in teaching. What advice would you give for those two individuals?
So for beginners, I will say take that free week of yoga. Join that 30-day challenge at the local studio. It's going, no one likes to be new. No one likes to do things that they're not comfortable with. No one enjoys that. But that's your yoga in that moment. Before
Mm-hmm.
you even get to the mat, you have to do all of this yoga where it's who am I? Am I good enough? Will I be good enough? Will they think this about me? Will they feel this way? Will I be safe? Blah, blah, blah. There's all these things, the shadow work that you have to do to be
Mm.
vulnerable on a mat, allowing someone to tell you to do things that you know nothing about. So
Right.
go into it being like, it doesn't matter. We all started, seek beginner classes for sure. Like, make sure the class you're signing up for is a beginner class. Because I've had people who are like, this is my first day of ever taking a yoga. And I took a power yoga class. And I'm like,
Yeah.
babes,
It's like I don't want
babes,
you to have a
babes.
bad impression of yoga because this is something a little different. And if it's your
Yeah.
first time, it's not always ideal as a first class to join.
And it will push people sometimes away if they don't are if they're already
Yes.
physical, or if they're not like doing it because like they have a friend group or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so this is,
Hmm.
you're on a solo journey in your yoga journey right now. I would suggest seeking out deep stretch, yin yoga, and beginner slow flows.
Yes,
Uh,
learning the ropes first. Yeah.
Learn the ropes. Use the tools. Use your tools. Use your tools. Use your tools. That's for the yoga teachers and for the beginners. Use your blocks. Use your straps. You do
Thank
not have to
you.
break your body to make a pretty shape.
Thank
Sometimes an ugly shape is better for your body,
you.
right?
Yes.
This is not Instagram, especially if you're like new to the practice. I'll see people all the time as newbies, like looking at an advanced student, like cue an advanced pose, and they're like, "Oh, let me," and I'm like, that was not for you to try because it's not in your practice yet. And yes, explore, create, but also don't hurt yourself because
Right.
you're trying to run before you walk. There's so
Exactly.
in this practice. Um, and also seek out other forms of yoga. Don't just seek out yoga that's in a yoga studio that's physical. Look for meditations. Look for kundalini. Look for ecstatic dance. Even look for things that will create a space of community and like-minded people, so that you can eventually meet people to go together and just keep
Hmm.
going. Like as much as you can. If you can go every day, go every day. If you can only go once a week, go. Make sure that it's consistent, because if it's not consistent, it will not stick.
Mm. Exactly.
Consistency is key in this because it is a practice. It is not perfection. It is a daily practice.
And it's not something that is intended for you to practice to get better at or to a certain point. Everything is always in flux. So
Hmm.
the practice is literally just you arming yourself with the skills to be able to do the things that you need to do within the life.
Hmm.
And life is always going to throw you something else. So your practice then changes again.
Hmm.
It's like being okay with that flux is all right.
Being okay with not knowing what's going on, being
Yes.
okay knowing that it's going to hurt the first couple of times. Your body is not used to it, as we said earlier. You're 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 entering into a new space, so give yourself grace.
Mm.
Victoria said something in a class before that stuck with me forever. Give yourself grace like you give yourself water. Or we need grace like we need water. That's what it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
But I'm saying give yourself grace just like you go and take a drink of water. Because
Hmm.
and when she said that in that class of, we need grace like we need water, I'm like, I'm so hard on myself. And I know so many people are hard on themselves. Social media has made it easier to have imposter syndrome, to harm ourselves internally. So
Yeah.
make sure that you're not judging your practice off of what you see on Instagram or your friends or anything like that. It's a very personal thing. It's so
Ooh.
personal.
And I'll
Um,
even add to that,
yeah.
if you find that Instagram is causing you to have any of these thoughts or harmful thoughts, please delete those types of accounts.
Yes.
Like, because I had to do that for myself, where I noticed in me that I was feeling defeated. And I'm like, and it wasn't even my intention. Like, that was not even in the intention of my practice. But seeing that constantly flowing through, my doom scrolling moments, and I'm just like, oh man, that is cool. I would love to try that, but I can't do this, so I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, all that ruminating happens. And then when I realized how it was affecting my relationship with my practice, I'm like, unfollow, unfollow, unfollow. And then the next thing I know, I'm back in love with it again and just completely happy with where I am because it's mine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so
It's
don't feel like you have to follow the influencers or anything like that. If you find that any of that stuff is making you feel uncomfortable, unfollow it. You
because
have
that's
every
not
right to.
accurate. That's not good for your mind, and it's not energetically. It's not good to send that vibration out to someone who's like probably just trying to inspire people, and it's actually hurting you. You know, like they don't, and obviously
That's
they're not
yeah,
doing.
it's not their intention, but it's just what can happen.
Right, it's a razor's edge, right? Because there are some people who are in their practice are very egoic and are doing it for the pose. They're doing it to show off. They're doing it blah 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 blah. You know,
Mhm.
if those are the types of folks that you're following, that's the energy I feel like you're going to get from their practice because it
Yeah.
is an energetic practice that you should be able to feel. Just like you can watch a
Yes.
video of someone dancing and be moved to tears, or watch a TV show and be moved to tears. If someone's practice moves you to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I need to be better, like not saying that that's their intention, but
But it's not
they're
for you.
but
Yeah.
it's not for you. Something energetically is not aligning, and you're not moved by it.
Hmm.
I don't take classes from people I'm not moved by. I don't connect to. Right? That's just a
Yeah.
reality. Like I hate when there's a sub because I'm like, this is not who I want to take class from. But that's my yoga for the day. But to answer your second question, for people who are wanting to be yoga instructors, I will say that when I first started teaching yoga, I thought that teaching group fitness classes and working at gyms and teaching in studio was the only way to make money. When I realized that it's not. Okay. Okay. The money is in corporate. The money is in working as a yoga therapist, working with doctors and, psychologists and stuff like that, using yoga for trauma, they're like getting a niche space that
Hmm.
not only you provide, but like a space where you can provide and thrive for
Yeah.
you and not get burnt out in that space is where you should go. Like for me, I prefer to teach workshops. I enjoy a good 3 hour session
Yeah.
with each other where we do some yoga, we do some journaling, we do some meditation, some Reiki, whatever, honey. We do maybe some sound bowls, and then you go. And I see you next.
Yes.
Because sometimes for some people, teaching group fitness classes are very draining, right? Where for other people, they're like, I love teaching in studio. I love it. I'm like, I like that you love it because I'm over here trying to build a course. Like, so find
Yes.
something, yoga is not just physical. You can teach philosophy. You can teach about if you only care about chakras and you only want to teach about chakras, you can literally live your whole career teaching the same workshop every 6 weeks or every
Hmm.
7, whatever. You know what I
Because
mean?
there's always going to be folks that need that information that have
Exactly.
not known it before and will need it. Yeah.
It's, and just trust. I will say this: do not settle for the first yoga studio that you go to for their training because you might be signing yourself up for something that may not give you the experience
Mm.
that you're looking for. Make
Mm.
sure that whatever training that you're looking for has specific things that you're looking for. Read the reviews,
Yes.
read what the curriculum looks like. Watch the videos of past graduates. Like they typically
Take
have
their
people take
classes.
their classes. You need to know how the instructors who are leading that training are going to be because that's going to affect and impact your experience.
Yeah.
I know people who took a training with a specific teacher here in town, and they're like, there's not a lot of good. But I'm like, you guys left a review, right? And they're like, well, I didn't want to do that. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, like, you need to give your genuine, honest
Give that
opinion.
feedback, yeah, so they can
You
improve.
paid or
It's a
will be
lot of
paid.
money.
A,
A lot of money. I had to get a second job to get my 200. Had to get a
child,
credit card to do the 300.
okay, child. So make sure, honey, it's like when you go to the restaurant, if they don't got what you came there for, honey, don't try nothing else if you're in the mood. You know, if you set for that steak and you can't get your steak, honey, and they're like, oh, well, we have this slang. No, you know you're not going to like that steak. You're going to be
Right.
upset, right? So
Exactly.
read the reviews. Go to the classes. Like you said, the studio, what does the vibe of the studio give you? Is it the only studio you've ever been at and you're afraid to go to another one because you don't want to start over with the new
Ooh.
community? Like, because I am a yoga hopper. I will bounce from studio to studio until I find the right space that feels good. And then when it starts to feel
Yes.
wrong, your body knows I will leave, right? When you get what you need, that's the beautiful thing about this practice is I always
Mhm.
tell my students, I want to see you get to a place where you are surpassing me. I want to see
Mhm.
you going to take master classes and do different things because you're so passionate about your training or you're so passionate about becoming a teacher or whatever that
Yeah.
you're on fire for it, right? So making sure that that teacher that is telling you to become a yoga instructor, or that person that you're saying you want to be an instructor because of, or whatever however you're called to it, um, make sure that when you step away, you're like that 3,000, 5,000,
Mm.
thousands of
Mm.
dollars that you're spending is going to give, if you want to take your yoga teacher training on the beach in Tulum with whatever, like at a resort, then that's a training you need to take. Don't take anything outside of what your spirit is called to. I've just heard so many horror stories from people paying so much money and feeling ripped off, feeling like
Yeah.
you should be able to walk away from this training feeling confident to teach in
Not
some
only
capacity
that, but also curious to continue learning more.
because you're always a
Like,
student. Just because you
yes,
got that 200 hour ain't
doesn't mean
nothing.
that's the end all be all.
That
This is
that,
a centuries old practice. There are
that
so many things to learn, and no one human is ever going to know it all.
and if they don't talk about the Sanskrit, if they don't talk about the philosophy, if they don't really go into it, make sure ask questions, y'all. Like please, please, please ask questions. What does the training look like? Do you talk about philosophy? Do you talk about the history? Because as we are visitors, even though we're black and brown, we are visitors in this culture. So we need
Mhm.
to make sure that we respect it, just as we would want someone to respect Ifa, as we would want someone to respect, traditional African, belief systems and practices. We need to honor
Yes.
this practice in the same exact way. We have to show up how we want people to show up for us, right? And
Mm.
maintaining that by asking the right questions and making sure you're not putting money in the pockets of someone who is just churning out teachers.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
I'm
That's
very passionate
all.
about that.
Look, that's all extremely great advice because I've seen it with my own eyes too of folks getting taken advantage of because they're eager to, take the coveted 200 hour and they just sign up for something and it leaves them with a bad taste in their mouth. And I'm like, that like, and knowing the experience that I've had with my own 200 hour, I'm like, that is starkly different. What happened? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I don't understand how we get to the point where we have folks having that type of experience, but it does occur. So do your due diligence to find what fits for you and
Don't
vet them.
settle one place. Yeah, don't just settle
Yes.
for, like, make sure you've gone to several studios. Maybe the studio, follow studios online. Like there's a specific brand that I like. They're called Authentic Movement. They're amazing. I love, like, they're like me. They're very flowy and very, like, move and, like, do, like, weird things to get into poses and stuff. And I love it. I'm like, ugh, I love it. They're amazing. But I want to take their creative sequencing program. It's a 50-hour creative extended course,
Ooh.
but I want to take it in person. I don't want to
Yeah.
take it online. I want to be in person. So I'm like, I got to make sure I got time. Because I don't want to not have the experience that I want to have.
Hmm.
I don't want to look back and be like, man, I wish I would have gone. I really should have gotten the fries, Like,
Yeah.
no, we don't do that. We're grown. we're going to be spending money to create a career, because this is a career. It's a lifelong movement. It's a family of people. It's a whole different world. When you become a part of this world, it really is. You can see, and like not all families are perfect, honey.
Mm-mm. At
You know
all. There's dysfunction everywhere, but we get through it the way we need to with these practices in mind.
exactly. So
Mhm.
just those are the things that I would stress is just really, really being diligent, because that's a lot of money, especially for, for a lot of us. We don't have access often to that large amount of funds in a disposable
Yeah.
way. So honor that, honor yourself and your
Mm.
choice, and make the choice that will give you sovereignty in what you're doing, so that you walk away and you're like, I had the best, I love my yoga experience. Oh my God, me and my friend, blah, blah, blah. And then you're always excited. You're always on fire, because that experience planted a seed for you
Mm.
to learn, right? They planted that,
Yes.
and it's being nourished for your training. And then also, don't think that you're gonna be making bank at first, at least.
Because unfortunately, folks be thinking that they deserve this stuff for free, which I mean, I understand, but also I don't. Because, like,
I do.
what did you
Yes.
think? This is an investment I made. Like, that couple grand for each training, that I'm in debt. I'm like, I'm almost in like student debt,
Look.
learning all this stuff. And not to mention all of the hours that I have spent learning all of these things to share with you. You would pay your doctor who has spent all of these hours and dollars going to school to learn about, Western medicine. Why not pay your yoga instructor who has
A two
spent all of these hours and all of these dollars learning these things to teach you
Yeah,
yoga? It's the
200 hours
same
is
thing.
equivalent to a bachelor's degree,
Hmm.
right? Because it's like
I don't
what
remember.
full-time school is like, what, 12, 16 hours. So if you do that for it's I feel like it's even less than a four
You're
year
on to something.
than a
You're on
four
to
year
something.
college education, right? The
Cause see, I'm
500
sitting here thinking about my overachieving ass that was taking 18 classes. So that's- and I'm like, is it more or is it? I don't know. And now I'm sitting here like I can't even
so
think
let's
of the
see,
math right now.
18 18 times 2, right? 2 semesters, if that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's think that's base minimum. That's
Oh my
36.
god.
That's 36 hours. You multiply that by 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So you carry 4 times. You know what I mean? Like
See, and this is why I'm over here. We could have look.
that.
This could be an even bigger conversation because I'm over here like. So you're telling me you're trying to cram 200 hours of training into how many weeks? Now it makes sense because the training I did was over months.
Mm-hmm.
Like we started in January, ended in May. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, yeah, stretching it out makes a little bit more sense in my brain. And now that you've put it in that perspective, I'm like, hold on, we need more time.
Listen, I just realized that my math was real wrong, y'all, because I was thinking about dividing. So don't quote me. I apologize.
Oh man, it's like maybe we need to reframe the yoga school framework because whoa, like I didn't realize like the real scope of how many hours 200 and 300 hours truly is when it comes to a training. That's a
I was
lot of time.
who is a psychologist, and like I have a lot of yogis have friends that are psychologists, because psychologists tend to take yoga. A lot of psychology is found from yoga. So, like, yoga philosophy and concepts. But I was talking to one of my friends, and I was just talking about it in like the sense of yoga, like, chakras, pranayama, da da da. We're having this conversation. He's like talking to me. He's like, "Dude, you're so smart. Like, how'd you learn that?" And I was like, "Well, yes,
I've been
thank you.
studying my whole life.
I've been studying this crap." And he's like, dang, how much? Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm currently enrolled in a 300-hour training. He was like, wait, what? You have to take 300 hours to learn how to teach yoga? And I was like, well, it's deepening my practice. I took a 200-hour. He was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, how many hours? And he told me, I believe it was like roughly a little bit under 200 hours for his bachelor's. And I was like,
Mm. And that's not
What?
even counting time that you're studying either.
You
That's
know what
just
I mean? Or
literally your credit hours. Yeah.
or what up, you know? So it's just like when we had that conversation and he was talking to me, I was like, I actually have a lot more authority than I give myself in this.
Ooh wee. You done said a word.
Like my decade of being a Bhakti yogi, my certification of 200, 300, you know, like my practice, my
Yes.
actual exploration and personal time, like, because it's not, sometimes I'm just reading this stuff because I want to read it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
It
just genuinely.
interests me. I want to know. Yes.
So I think about that, and I always tell people, I'm like, we new yoga teachers and people who want to become yoga teachers, like you, when you obtain the knowledge, like once you step in and you got that little teacher manual, you are already a teacher because you have the
Hmm.
power to read that at home and research by yourself before you go in and out of the training.
Yeah.
Not many people
Like
do that, you know, but you
the
can.
concept of these 200 and 300 hour trainings is new in
Mm-hmm,
retrospect. So
mm-hmm,
many other people that have been sharing yoga over the decades, the centuries, all of that have either been self-taught or apprenticed with a master of some
mm-hmm.
sort or a guru of some sort. These things did not occur, so don't feel bad if you feel all right with checking some books out at the library and diving face first right into them to learn everything you can on your own. That's okay.
I would encourage that. I would encourage
Yes.
self study in this field because
Literally one of the, the yamas.
you know, like, you want your doctor to be smart and like knowledgeable. We want our yoga instructors to as well, you know. And also, and one more thing about the new teachers, it's okay if you step out of teacher training and you feel like, you know what, I don't want to teach yoga
Hmm.
because guess what, you are always doing yoga.
Yep.
Yoga means to link or to
Mhm.
yoke, right?
Yes.
So to bring things together. Going through a 200-hour training will give you life tools that are invaluable, that maybe it's not, you don't need to be a yoga instructor. Maybe you're needed in the office. Maybe you're needed at the grocery store that you work at. Maybe you're needed somewhere else and the training didn't really spark something outside of that, but it did give you this knowledge and this information and this hopefully deepening of your practice.
Yes.
And that's okay. Like, don't feel like you have to run out of teacher training teaching. Don't feel like you need to be making a certain thing. I would say let yoga bring to you what it can, and don't force it to give you something because I,
Mm.
I I've tried that and that don't work, babes.
No, it don't. It really don't. Oh, well, Ashton, I can't thank you enough for all of the advice that you just
Yeah.
imparted and the stories that you've shared. This has been a magical, fun time. So I'm
Well,
so
thank
glad we
you.
finally got a chance to
I
do
know.
this. Yes. So, folks, if you are looking to link up with Ashton, tell us your social media handles.
So on Instagram, I am at the Phoenix Priestex. So it's a little weird handle.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, and I'm currently working on launching my Patreon. So it's like a virtual studio for people who honestly do want to learn. It'll be like 15, 20-minute videos. So it's not something you have to commit too much to because I know
Mhm.
that sometimes people don't have 45 minutes to an hour to take a yoga
Right.
class, you know? So trying to kind of create little snippets and pockets for that. And I'll also be doing a shadow work workshop here soon. So it'll start in November. We'll be meeting together, doing as holiday seasons approach. This is a really good time to be in community for those who are navigating through, you know, some deep, dark emotions or things like that. So if you want to join, it's light yoga, very, very light yoga, mostly meditation, mostly journaling, and a little bit of information on like how the chakras relate to shadow work. So it's like a 7-week thing that we'll be doing together into the new year. So if you're interested,
Oh, I can't wait.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, folks, you heard it here. Make sure you sign up ASAP. All right. That is it for us today. Thank you again to you, Ashtyn. Thank you to all of you listening. I cannot express my gratitude enough. I'll see you guys back next week with another new episode. So be sure to follow, subscribe, leave comments, reviews, all of the things so we know exactly what's going on. I appreciate your time. I am peacing out. Later, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to the Yoga in Black podcast. What did you think of this episode? Leave us a comment or a rating on whichever platform you're listening or watching from today, right after you subscribe. Be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at yoga.inblack, Facebook yogainblack, and TikTok yoga.in.black. Also, head to www.yogainblack.net for all your YIB needs. Next episode, I'll connect with Ro Wosu. New episodes air every Tuesday. And if you'd like to be on the show, fill out our waitlist form on the website. Be sure to click on Let's Talk from the menu. I can't thank you enough for all of your support. Really, this could not be done without you. Thanks for listening.